In this section of Promethean Advanced, we're going to talk about the property browser. The property browser has a variety of different things you can change and manipulate, and each one depends upon what object you have selected. So the property browser is the fifth one over. It looks like a sheet of paper, and you can see right now I only have four different options. So we talked about page turn effects in one of the other videos. And identification, that comes into play when you're working with containers. That's in another video. So we're going to skip the first two, and we're going to discuss tools right now. If you want to have a particular tool, like the Revealer tool or the Spotlight tool, default Promethean has it set, as you can see, as the page before. So whatever I had on the page before is what's going to be on the next page. But if I just want to have the Revealer tool on a specific page, say for this one, I'm going to go and I'm going to turn my Revealer tool on, and then you can move it to where you want it to be. Sorry about that. And you can save it in the particular position where you want it. But if you go back a page or forward a page, it's going to be there. So for this one, I already have tools turned off. And if I go forward a page, I'm going to also have to turn this one's tools off. So now I only have my Revealer tool on the particular page that I want it on. Same thing goes for the Spotlight tool. Alright, next one we're going to go over is the grid. If you right click on your screen, you can hide a grid or turn a grid on. It's always hidden, but if you unclick it, you can turn it on. So now you can see I have some options up here. I can change my different scale options to change the thickness of my grid. I can allow items to snap to my grid. So what that would do is if I have a square, right now I can move this square wherever I want to. But if I turn allow to snap to true, when I move this square, even if it's not particularly online, it's going to automatically snap it into one of those sections. If you go to the Grid Designer, you can even change it more in depth by going through the various sizes, and you can play around with your x-axis and your y-axis, as well as the color of your grid. If you don't want it black, you can change it to be any color that you so choose, and your grid will show up in a different color. So grids come in very handy with math, and this is just one of the ways that you can manipulate it. So now we're going to go back to this page here where we have property browser information. Like I said, these are the four that pop up when you have nothing selected. But if I select something, for example, this shape here, I'm going to get several more options over there on my property browser. So if you watch here, I'm going to click, and now I have outline, fill, background, position, label. I have all of these options here to choose from. So if I want to identify it, I could call this purple circle. And keywords that, like I said, comes into play when you work with containers, which is on another video. The appearance, you can change the translucency from here. Do you want it visible? Yes or no. So you want it to disappear. And what layer do you want it on, which is the same thing as moving it in our object browser. The next one down is your outline. So from here you can change the outline to look differently, change the style, the design, the feel of it, or completely get rid of an outline. So we're going to choose dot dot or dash dot dot. You can change the color, and you can change the thickness. Do you want it squared? Do you want it circled? There's a ton of different options, like I said, within the property browser. Currently, it's just a solid purple, but if you want it to do a different effect inside, look a little bit different. If you choose gradient, then you also have to choose the color and the style. Right now, the background is peach, but it says it's transparent black, so you can change those options as well. So it's the background of the shape, I'm sorry, not the whole page. So you can see how it's changing. Position is just where it's located on the page. So that would be just like moving it here. See how my numbers change in my property browser? Same effect. Labeling, this is where we talk about tooltips in another video. So if I wanted to say circle, and then I can change my tooltips, and I can change all that color. So we'll go into that more depth on the labeling video. So we're going to minimize all these that we've already done so that it's easier for you to see. So we are on container, which we're not going to discuss because that's in the container video. Rotate, restrictors, and miscellaneous are the ones we're going to cover now. So currently, I can rotate this however I want to, right? Any way I want. It's rotate freely. So that means I can move it around however I want to. If I change my rotate, I can make it so that it only goes clockwise, anti-clockwise, or doesn't move at all. So if you don't want your students moving your shapes, you could choose no, you don't want it to do anything. Or if you're doing like a clock and you want them to talk about telling time, you could change it to clockwise. Right now it rotates about the center. You can change it so that it rotates on the top, the bottom, the middle. I wouldn't particularly mess with that if you're learning about telling time. And then the point of rotation, you can manipulate as well, but we're going to leave those as 0 right now. Restrictors. Restrictors are very helpful, especially if you're hiding something off the page. This can size is also helpful if sometimes when you have students up to the board dragging various things, especially particularly text, it stretches and it changes its shape. If you don't want it to change its shape, you simply say no, and you'll see all of my little circles that were once before around my marquee to manipulate the size will disappear. And then can move, once again, it can move anywhere I want it to move on the page. But if I don't want it to move and I just want it to spin, I can say, no, you can't move. And then it gets rid of the X to allow it to move. So now it can only go clockwise. It can't go counterclockwise. It can't move anywhere. It can only rotate, and I can't change its size. And then last but not least is drag copy if you want to duplicate it, if you want more than one. So if I turn this to true, when I drag a copy, oh, it went off false. So we're going to turn it to true, click off, I drag a copy of it, I get more than one. It's just staying in the same location for whatever reason. Probably because I have can't move selected. So now I have 2 circles that can't move but can only rotate. So that's the different things you can do within your property browser for a particular shape that you've created. If you click on text, you can change a lot of it in the property browser as well. Many of the categories are the same. It does have the fill category, which is the background color. So if you want to have a solid background, obviously not a black for black words, but you can change that through the property browser. Background position label, everything else is still the same as it is with the shape. So the next thing we're going to manipulate in our property browser is an image. So this image was taken from Google and imported or copy and pasted in. So if I click on my turtle, there are various things I can do to my turtle. Once again, if you look, they are all pretty much the same as they are for the shape and text, except for when you get to miscellaneous, there are more options. Right now it has transparent color, so if I turn that off false, you can see I have a background. So oftentimes if you pull in an image and it has a white background and you want to eliminate that white background, you can change this transparent to true, and it will eliminate that background. So that's a nice feature there. And then you have the drag copy as well again. So like I said, there's a lot of different options within your property browser, and it changes depending upon what you have selected, whether it's a text, a shape, a picture, or just the page itself. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.